Welcome back, everyone. It's here. And today I've got some r/BestOf for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This post was collected by Direct Caterpillar 77, and their tagline is, "Satan is not a pogo stick." The original OP is "She crossed the line." Posted to r/relationships, August 28th, 2014. My 25 female mother made a rude comment about my significant other's 26 male deceased brother, and I don't know how to move forward. Quick context. 2 years ago, my boyfriend's younger brother tragically died in a motor vehicle accident at the age of 11. It was a really tough time. My boyfriend still hasn't gotten over it completely. He was a very caring older brother, and I know that he loved that kid as much as he loved me. A lot. His younger brother was in the car with his mom when it happened, and she rarely enforced the adornment of seatbelts in the car. My boyfriend doesn't blame his mom for what happened, but I suspect that my mother does. My mother usually has her heart in the right place, but she has a really big mouth. She doesn't really like my boyfriend because she thinks he's not emotionally equipped to be a father, whatever that means. So she can be pretty rude to him. We've had discussions about how she treats him in the past, and I've made it very clear to her that I want to marry this guy, but she still hasn't changed. My boyfriend came to visit my parents for the week since my dad is turning 64. This morning, my dad and I got into an argument because she was still trying to baby me. She tried to correct my toothbrushing motions, even though I'm a full-fledged, self-supporting adult. I guess she's bored or something. We all got into the car to go out for brunch when my mom told me my seatbelt was secured too loosely. My boyfriend smirked a little because he was there when I discussed babying to my mother, and she was not happy with his reaction. Whenever she feels belittled, she gets vicious, but she definitely went too far this time. I don't remember what she said exactly, but it was something along the lines of, "I care about the well-being of my children. Maybe if you, or brother's mother, cared as much as I do, brother's younger brother would still be here. Do you find negligence funny?" Car went dead silent right after that. My dad noped the fuck out, and my boyfriend just sat there in shock. I was furious at my mom, but I didn't know what to do. So I coarsely told her to get out of the car and go back inside the house. She refused, unsurprisingly, so I took my boyfriend, who was silent the entire time, to our own car and drove him to a hotel. I promised him he didn't have to spend the rest of our trip at their house. He hasn't said much since the incident, but I can tell he's very upset with my mother. He has issues with opening up and sharing his grief, so I'm very worried that what my mother said re-triggered the depression he went through immediately following his younger brother's death. Any ideas regarding how I should handle this? I'm unbelievably mad at my mother right now, but I don't even know what I can do about it. My dad is trying to stay uninvolved, which makes me mad at him too. My boyfriend has been watching soccer all day, and he doesn't want to talk about what my mom said, so I'm very concerned about him as well. Too long didn't read. Mom crossed a line and said very hurtful things to my boyfriend. I have no idea how I should proceed. Update, I spoke with my dad and he agreed to pack up our stuff and bring it to our hotel. My significant other and I will be leaving tonight. I have not spoken with my mother since leaving and I don't intend to. My significant other is still visibly upset, but I know he's happy that we're going home. Hopefully I can figure out a way to make this up to him. She's been rude with him in the past and I should have put my foot down well before this point. Update 1, August 30th, 2014, 6 days later. My mother is unbelievable. I'm not sure if she's a narcissist, but she is most definitely a bitch. On Thursday, I called my father and asked him to bring us our stuff to our hotel so we could begin the 3-hour drive back home. When he arrived at our hotel, he apologized profusely to my boyfriend for what my mother said, and they both shook hands and agreed to move on. I think my dad sort of wanted us to stay, but I knew that type of interaction with my father would involve my mother as well, and I'm not going to let that happen for obvious reasons. I ended things on amicable terms with my father because I don't think it's fair to blame him for what my mother said. He's probably enabling her, but he promised me he would talk to her about making steps towards fixing things. That being said, I'm pretty sure my mother won't change her mind anytime soon. I asked my father privately about my mother's reaction to everything, and he told me she was very disappointed in me for making this trip about me and my relationship. Apparently, she does not want to speak to me until I apologize to her. Who says what she says and then demands an apology? I'm especially hurt about everything because she did all of this right after I finished expressing my excitement to her because I discovered something that led me to believe my boyfriend was planning on proposing to me soon. She knows that I love him more than anything else in the world, and she still paid no attention to his feelings, and my feelings, by extension. She doesn't have to love him, but she should at least care about him, merely because he's important to me. Is that too much to ask from my own mother? On the car ride home, I tried to cheer my boyfriend up by asking him about the soccer and tennis games he was watching because he likes it when I take an interest in his hobbies. Usually he'll be happy, explain everything to me, but this time he barely said anything. So I decided to give him some space, and I ended up replying to a few comments on here and reading some articles about narcissism. When we got home, he seemed much more at peace with what happened. So I was hoping that we could just put my mother behind us and move past this. Yeah, my mother demanding an apology isn't the unbelievable part of last night. Our home phone had a voicemail from my boyfriend's dad asking us to call him. My mother actually called my boyfriend's parents to question their parenting directly. Oh my God! Who does that? This is far and beyond what I thought my mother would ever be capable of. I am so disgusted by all of this that I don't even want to know what my mother said to them specifically. My boyfriend's mom won't get on the phone with us, but his dad said that she's been sobbing nonstop. I feel sick to my stomach about everything, but I don't know what to do. My mom won't reply to my messages or my calls because she's still waiting for an apology, and my poor dad is caught in the middle of everything during his birthday weekend. My boyfriend, someone who's traditionally very agreeable and calm, is livid. He told me he wants her out of his life completely, and I agreed with him. But I'm not sure she'll just let us cut her out of our lives without trying to hurt us even more. His parents live on the other side of the country, so he feels completely helpless. It's like my mother erased all of our therapy sessions and counseling in one day, just because she was unhappy with how my boyfriend reacted to her ridiculous behavior. Yesterday was pretty uneventful. My boyfriend and I just hung out for the majority of the day. Neither of our mothers has spoken to us. For the record, my mother did not raise me to be this way. I was very close to her when I was younger, and while we did drift a little bit after college, I still frequently confided in her. I always knew she had a big mouth, but her current actions are just hateful. She can't plead obliviousness. She is deliberately trying to hurt people I care about. I don't know what's happened to her, but that woman is not my mother, and I don't care if I ever speak to her again. Too long didn't read, my mom called his parents to question their parenting. She won't talk to me until I apologize to her. On a side fucking note, if OP does decide to go no contact, I just know the mother isn't actually going to tell the full story and just tell people, oh, she's mad at me because I disagreed with her boyfriend's parents' style of parenting. That's what she's going to leave it at. In addition, as a pet theory, considering that OP was in fact telling her about her excitement that he might propose to her, then she at the first opportunity goes right for the throat in terms for the boyfriend's insecurities, and then when you two put up a front against her and your father, her next reaction is to call the boyfriend's parents? That's a very deliberate move. She already doesn't like the boyfriend. I wouldn't be surprised if she's actively trying to break the two of you up. And this is her last Hail Mary attempt. Update 2, September 2nd, 2014, 2 days after the last update. Sorry if this update is all over the place. I'm still trying to absorb everything that has happened. I hope that writing it all out will help. There are some aspects of the past couple of days that I don't want to write about, even anonymously, so please bear in mind that there will be some details missing. After I replied to a few comments on my last post, I read some articles about narcissism and enabling narcissism. It's impossible for me to maintain a healthy relationship with my father without a drastic change in his relationship with my mother. Hopefully someone on here can empathize with the pain that causes me. Knowing that you love someone so much, but forcing yourself to remove that person from your life because you fully comprehend that the contact between the two of you is inappropriate. I suspect some people will find faults with my decision to go no contact with my father, and I welcome your criticism. Just know that it was not a decision I made easily. I have always been Daddy's little girl. When I was young, I used to fantasize that my father and my Prince Charming would become best friends. Knowing that it's very likely my father will not be walking me down the aisle cuts my heart like a knife. I called him to talk to him about my decision on Saturday while my boyfriend was privately Skyping with his parents. He told me he was happy to hear from me, and he explained that my mother was going through our family photos to throw away pictures of me. He saved all the pictures, but he did not stop her from throwing them out in the first place. I asked him if he repeated anything from our last phone call to my mother. He did. I asked him if he could promise me that would stop. He could not. I started sobbing, and I told him that I could not keep in my life while he was still enabling my mother's behavior. He joined me in crying and repeatedly begged me to make up with my mom. I explained to him very clearly why that would not happen under the circumstances, and we both sat silently on the phone for what felt like an hour. He broke the silence by telling me that he was proud of me, and that he loved me more than anything in the world. That only made me cry more. I guess my boyfriend heard me sobbing because he walked into the room, hugged me, and asked me who I was on the phone with. Eventually, he asked to speak with my father, and after their conversation, my boyfriend asked me if I sincerely believed that I had to cut my father out of my life. I explained to him that we would never be able to move past this while I was still in contact with someone that allowed my mother to continue her hateful actions. My boyfriend accepted my response and reminded me that it was my decision to make, and he did not want me to feel like he was pressuring me to sever or maintain my relationship with my father. I called my dad 3 to 4 times a week so he knows how close I was with him and how much love we have for each other. He knows this wasn't an easy decision for me to make. I finished the call with my dad by telling him that he needed to get my mother help and he needed to put his foot down to let her know that her current actions are not okay. He understood and he promised me he would do whatever it takes to get me back into his life, including a divorce if my mother continues her refusal to work on herself. But right now, he wants to keep on pushing to get my mother help because he loves her. I admire and respect my father a lot, even if I don't fully admire and respect the things he's done this past week. Despite everything my mother has done to me, my boyfriend's family, and even him, he's still loyal to her. Enabling her certainly isn't something he should be proud of, but I admire his devotion to his wife. A lot of people tell me that I'm fiercely loyal to my loved ones, and I'm very proud that I learned that from him. I hope he keeps his promise and finds his way back into my life, but I know I should not count on it. After my phone call, my boyfriend and I had a serious discussion about everything that's happened. I don't know, especially after he embraced me half an hour earlier while I was crying, but I convinced myself that he was going to leave me. I had to work so hard to hold back tears as he spoke because I thought I knew that this would be our last conversation as a couple. I'm well aware of the fact that I'm the sole reason he has to deal with all of this, and to be frank, I feel responsible. If I wasn't in his life, his family would not have had to go through this awful experience. But instead of breaking up with me, he asked me to tell him how I was feeling about everything and how I needed him to support me. I told my beautiful boyfriend everything. I asked him the same question and he told me everything. He also suggested that I begin meeting regularly with his therapist, at least for now, and I accepted wholeheartedly. The only positive aspect of pain is having your best friend support you through it. After our talk, he wanted to think about everything in quiet, but he asked me to sit with him. We sat together and said nothing for hours. He didn't want to cuddle, and he didn't even look at me for the majority of the silence. He just asked me to be with him. I tried to think about this entire situation some more, but instead I just thought about how much love I have for my boyfriend. Eventually, he began to talk about his brother. We shared familiar stories with each other and cherished them as if they were new. We both celebrated his brother's beautiful life together, but it wasn't sad or depressing. It was very pleasant. I was troubled when he started talking about things he could have done differently. Obviously, I immediately explained that nothing about the loss was his fault. but I'm not sure he believes that the awful things my mother said are untrue. It's bothering me a lot, and I've already told his therapist about this. His therapist offered some responses I can use if my boyfriend brings up this awful thought again, but I'm curious about how Reddit thinks I should reply. I think you should just listen to the therapist. Maybe I've done some things wrong as a girlfriend, please point them out, but I'm doing my best to be the woman he deserves. Thanks to the suggestions of Reddit, I offered to Skype with my boyfriend's parents to express my grief and offer my support to them. It went very well. His parents were lovely, as always, and it pains me to know that these innocent, kind people have to experience this much heartbreak in their lifetimes. I explained to them how much my heart aches for them and how I've cut off contact with my parents completely. They told me that they loved me very much and that they would lend an ear if I ever needed guidance. Who would want to hurt people like that? It's not fair that these beautiful people have to suffer through this. I would not want this pain on the most definitively evil people in the world. I wrote my mother a very long email explaining why I would no longer be speaking to her or my father. I detailed how her actions hurt me and the people that I loved. I explained how betrayed I felt. I told her that she was not acting like the mother that raised me to live virtuously. I asked her to get help. I told her that if she didn't want to do it for me or herself, she needs to do it for my father. Even a person that has acted as selfishly as her has to feel an emotional obligation to please the one person standing by them, right? I admitted to her that I still loved her and my father. I admitted that I would love them unconditionally, and there is nothing I can do to change that. But I also explained that I could not sit by and watch my mother destroy herself like this, and I could not idly watch her hurt the other people I love unconditionally. Perhaps that gave her ammo. Looking back, I feel like my profession of love to her was unnecessary, but I don't regret telling her that. It's the truth. She replied almost immediately, and I could not stop myself from reading her reply. Mostly because she had replied at all, despite me not apologizing for anything in the email. I was foolishly hopeful that she had finally understood everything. Instead, she tells me she's disgusted that I'm entertaining my father's notion to get her evaluated medically and mentally. She says that we're the ones that need the evaluations. She writes that I'm a fool for abandoning my family for a man I met at a bar. She finishes by telling me that I'm not the daughter she raised, and she will never be able to forgive me for making my father cry because I selfishly want to spend more time with my boyfriend. I cried after I read her letter. Not because her words hurt me, but because it's painfully clear that there is something wrong with her. But she's too hurt, scared, or hateful to let us help her. I'm grieving the loss of my mother because I'm afraid I will never see her again. Things are bad now, but I'm very optimistic about my future. I know that any of my boyfriend's possible plans to propose are delayed at best, but I don't think my mother has succeeded in destroying our future family. Thank you so much for all of your support. I do not think I'll update again, and if I do, it won't be for a while, but I will try to reply to as many comments as possible. The overwhelming love and support I've discovered in this community delighted me, and I'm grateful for all the advice and kind thoughts you've shared with me. To all of the parents that shared their stories about the loss of their children with me, my heart aches for you. You're a wonderful person for using your story to help others. I wish I could hug you. I'm sorry this was so long. Writing some of this out has been therapeutic for me, and hopefully, I haven't upset too many people with this. I was distressed to read that my post brought up painful memories for members of this community. You have no idea how much my heart aches for you. Too long didn't read, things are not great, but they will get better. I cut out both my father and my mother from my life, and I still miss them every day. My boyfriend and I are supporting each other, and despite my initial insecurities, I feel very safe with our relationship. My boyfriend's lovely parents were happy that I reached out to them through Skype and reciprocated the support I offered them. I will leave this situation with lifelong scars, but I'm proud that I was able to keep myself together. I think my mother, my real mother, would have been proud. Yeah, after hearing all of that, I'm very much convinced the mother did this as a last-ditch attempt to try to break them up. Plus, with the emotional manipulation of throwing away the pictures and just everything on top of that, being fundamentally incapable of understanding the father wasn't crying because she wanted to spend more time with her boyfriend. The father was crying because he knew the relationship was over, because the mother refused to actually engage in a conversation and apologize for her harsh words. Also, the babying mentioned earlier is actually also just a form of control. It's part of the abuse pattern. It's simultaneously insulting them, like their hygiene as well as just who they are as a person, while still imposing that you need me. It doesn't necessarily fully work on an adult, but it's still part of the tactic. I think all of her behavior here was an extinction burst, an attempt at a final desperate grasp for control, to see if maybe she could reel her daughter back in and have her back under her thumb. And it didn't work. Every step of this was just an attempt to just tear her down in hopes that she would see the light, and air quotes. That's why that final email that she sent was as revolting as it was. I can only hope that in the past 12 years that OP has had nothing but good luck with their future. This post was collected by Direct Caterpillar 77, and their tagline is, "Satan is not a pogo stick." The original OP is Carbon Land Rover. Posted to r/ProRevenge, October 1st, 2016. Block my driveway? I'll go ahead and take your vehicles. Friday night here in the country can get a little crazy sometimes, so I don't mind when my neighbors cause a ruckus or loud party, as long as it's not too crazy. Tonight, I'm on call for Virginia State Police towing rotation, which means I've got 25 minutes to get wherever the wreck/DUI/impound etc. is. As luck would have it, my neighbors are having a party, and guess what's blocking my driveway? That's right, about 25 to 30 cars. I live down a dirt road at the end of a cul-de-sac, and it's pretty narrow. One in, one out type of deal. And with this rain we've been having, parking in the grass, clay, and mud is not the best idea. Even with a 4x4, it can still get tricky. I noticed a few cars coming in early this evening and walked over to my neighbors and made it pretty clear I was on call, and as long as they didn't block the road or my driveway, all would be good. No problems here. Well, I get a call from my boss asking if I can go warm up the rotator and the light-duty flatbed tow trucks. It's about 12:30 a.m., so I get my boots on and other gear because if I'm up, I might as well stay at the shop and clean a few things to stay busy and make the night move along. I get in my car, and as I'm backing out of the driveway, I notice I'm blocked in. I don't mean by one truck, but by nearly 15 different vehicles. I calmly walk over to my neighbors about 1/8 a mile hike, and as I'm looking for them through the crowd of drunk teenagers, some idiot wants to know why I'm on his property. He's not the property owner. I've never seen this classy gentleman. Finally, I find my neighbor and ask her if she can move the cars. I've got to go to work. She says in a normal tone, doesn't yell over the music, into the house, "Whoever's blocking the driveway next door, move your trucks," then slams the door in my face. I knocked again, and she answers with a drunken, "Oh God, this bitch again?" Internally, I'm thinking, all right then. I do my best to explain. I'm on call and need to get out of my driveway to go to work. She comes back sloshing a natural light, exclaiming, "It's a party! Relax!" Shuts the door in my face and yells, "Fuck that prick." I smile, and as I'm walking away, Macho Man throws a beer at me and cackles, "Yeah, you better leave! Go on! Get!" I get on the phone with dispatch and call for as many trucks as we have available tonight, about 10, and tell them to come on over. Mama's got some PPIs, private property impounds. I call police and dispatch and ask if they send out an officer in case things get out of hand, and as soon as he gets to my place, my rigs start rolling up and hooking vehicles up and taking them to the impound yard. We get down to the last 3 vehicles, a yellow Civic, gold Silverado, and an old F-150. The Civic owner bolts to his car and takes off. The Silverado girl, pretty wasted, gets stuck and starts tearing up my property. Officer walks over and she throws a fit. Long story short, she gets arrested for underage drinking and a DUI. The Ford owner doesn't show up. I get to work after all the impounds, and with me, I brought coffees and snacks for my drivers. Tomorrow's not a business day, which means if these tools want their cars back, it's going to be the regular $289.50 plus 2 days of storage at $55 a day and a $100 gate fee. I make a note in every single storage sheet, papers that the vehicle owners get, to thank the girl who had the party for getting towed. Several of the kids' parents called wanting to know where their cars or trucks were. I gave them the yard address and told them they can come anytime. As soon as they started shouting about illegal tows and threatening with lawyers, I showed them pictures of their cars with no parking signs, and explained that I tried to reason with the owner of the property, me, but she was tired of being blocked in by drunken teenagers. There are signs on my road saying no parking and not to block the driveway. Don't piss off a tow truck driver. She'll legally take your vehicles. Edit, the gate fee is only for after hours. It covers expenses of overtime for the office staff who have to get out of bed and come to work in the middle of the night. Also, how do I sleep at night? With a glass of chocolate milk while reading r/ask Reddit. Update, October 3rd, 2016, 2 days later. I'm going to go over a few things real quick because this is ridiculous. First, what happened over the last 40 hours. 1. 7 of the 15 cars towed Friday night have been released, and I explained to everyone I could the situation, what happened, and why they were towed. If they felt like they were in the wrong, I showed pics and their vehicles were released. The other 8 have yet to be picked up. Also, in case anyone doesn't know, only the registered owner can come get the vehicle. If mommy and daddy own it, they have to come get it. Silverado Girl has a 30-day hold on her POS truck. I won't be at work tomorrow, but I did leave a note on the girl's desk to call me if they had anyone giving them a tough time about what happened over the weekend. There was one kid who was an ass and threatened to call the cops. I offered to dial and even asked if he wanted a drink while he waited. The cops never came. His dad wasn't happy by the tow bill and called me a crook, which honestly hurt my feelings. 2. There are some salty people in this thread. 3. I talked to the parents of the kids who threw the party, my neighbors. The mom apologized and I accepted. I've got to live next to these people for a long time. There's no reason to be an ass clown tool shed. The daughters got in serious trouble when the kids, who got towed, parents called to complain about getting towed. I don't think there'll be any retaliation. I wasn't trying to get her in trouble and I told her mom that. She assured me that it wouldn't happen again. 4. As someone pointed out earlier, fuck you, OP, you ruined that girl's life. I didn't make her drink and get in her truck. She could have asked someone else or quite literally just not done what she did. 5. This post seems too well written and one-sided, must be fake, OP's a liar, and should, for in hell. How do they have 10 trucks at their disposal? Hey, thanks, I'll be sure to add that into the bedtime stories I read my son. I apologize for making my post too well written. As for being one-sided, you've got a point. I didn't interview the teens next door on how they felt about getting the punishment of breaking the law. We have a heavy truck, a lowboy, a rotator, dozens of flatbeds, and also wheel lifts. It's called being on rotation for police agencies. I have no idea why some people think we were a 2-bit tow company. I have lied before. One time my significant other asked me if I took the trash out, and I said yes when I really didn't. Whew! What a load off. 6. Alright, let's take a big gulp of chocolate milk and ask ourselves a question. Picture yourself at home. It's time to go to work, and there's a car parked in your driveway. You cannot get out of your driveway to go to work. What do? Call in work? Call 911? Watch Frozen? You have that piece of shit towed because they parked on your property. Would you like it if I parked my truck in your grass, on your lawn, blocking you from leaving? Of course not. 7. You illegally towed them, you piece of shit. First things first, I legally own half of the private road going to the cul-de-sac. I didn't have the cars towed that were on the road. I had the ones towed that were on my property with several no parking signs. I know some of you don't drive or own property, so I don't expect you to understand. If you're on call, you have to do your job. If you don't do your job, you no longer have a job. 8. Good golly. If you don't like tow trucks or think they're all crooks, you clearly haven't been saved by one. All those folks who break down on the side of the road, guess who comes to the rescue? Dogs trapped in a hot car? Tow truck drivers come and unlock the doors. Remember the time you had a dead battery and needed a jump? Yeah, you're right. We're money-hungry crooks that deserve to burn in hell. 9. If I ever catch someone towing my car, I'd kill them. Clever. Seriously, if your neighbors ask you to do something as easy as not parking on their property, especially if they don't complain about you throwing loud parties, just be a good neighbor. But if you sleep better, call me a liar, dirty karma whore, whatever. Sit around and pout about it, but don't take advice from strangers. Come park in my driveway. I'm sure nothing bad will happen to you. Followed up with the lyrics of Haters Gonna Hate. It's a very 2016 thing to put there, which makes sense because this post was posted in 2016. It is interesting how much Reddit's evolved in the past decade or so, but Something that hasn't changed is the idea that if you do something stupid and someone catches you, it's not your fault for doing something stupid. It's the person who caught you. They're the ones who are the bad guy here. You had people who were underage drinking who were willing to, without missing a beat, get into their vehicle and try to drive. I'd actually be willing to argue that OP potentially saved lives by having the cars towed and by preventing them from driving off. All it takes is a drunk driver with a bit too much confidence for a family of 4 not to come home one night. So it's a bit hard for me to feel sympathy there, especially because this was someone who was underage, drunk, who saw there were tow trucks and officers, and chose the best course of action was to try and get into their car and drive it off and away from the tow truck drivers. Their judgment was already impaired enough to the point where they figured they were A-okay trying to drive while under the influence in front of a fucking cop. Also, just as like a secondary note, if I knew my neighbor ran a tow truck company and I parked my vehicle somewhere and they knocked on my door and said, "Hey, you might want to move your vehicle," I'm moving my vehicle in that instance. This post was collected by Sebastian Lim, and their tagline is, "Acting all wise and older brotherly and just annoying." The original OP is user Wedding Drama 1205, posted to r/relationship advice, June 27, 2019. I'm 25 and getting married, dealing with issues around picking my maid of honor for the wedding. Friends, women in their 20s, think my brother, 35 male, is a bad choice. I'm planning my wedding to my awesome fiance and am so excited. We've been planning the event and will be married later in the year. He has his best man, his brother, and groomsmen mostly picked out. I thought I did too. We each have 6 people, and I have 5 female bridesmaids and a man of honor, which I want to be my brother. My bridesmaids think this isn't a great idea, and if you are hurt, I'm not choosing them instead. Here's why I want to choose my brother. My biological mother lost custody of me when I was 4, and I was put in an emergency foster situation with a family. I lived with them for 6 months, but was then put back into my mother's case. From 4.5-ish to 6, I lived with my mother, and it was bad. She was too sick, too addicted, and too weak to handle a child, and by 6, I was being adopted out. By some miracle, the family who took me in at 4 got a hold in the system, and I went to live with them, and was later adopted. The family had boys. The youngest was 16 when I got there. I was terrified of him when I got there, which they told me about recently. I have no recollection of that. I do remember him spending the summer with me, teaching me to swim, teaching me how to play games, teaching me how different appliances worked. He skipped a summer job to help our mom with my adjustment. I had eating problems, I had dental problems, I had a snoot full of health problems, including parasites. He came to doctor's appointments. He also helped me get ready for school. I hadn't started kindergarten yet and would actually never go. He and my mom would do learning activities with me, and by September, I was okay to enter 1st grade. I used to lay on my stomach and play geography games with him, and he'd reward me with reasons. We were very close. He didn't go away to college as a tradition, and instead, stayed home to go to a good university locally. He'd pick me up from school some days, and from 6 to 12, I had an older brother to rely on. He eventually moved out and went to medical school. He's such a great person for that field. Very literally, my brother helped save my life. I was suicidal as a young kid, and through a lot of changes and help, was able to climb out. He was a calm and stable influence in my life. I credit him, my mother and father, with saving me. I would never have gone to college. I probably wouldn't have graduated high school or even lived as I was so sick. I had 4 endoscopies, 4 colonoscopies, and 3 surgeries before I was 8. My family doesn't look like me. I'm mostly Mexican and something else, probably African American, and doesn't come from where I do. But they never treated me any differently than their other kids. Since the others were older and out of the home, I was never as close to them as I was my parents and brother. My thinking is, a maid of honor is someone really important, and I can't think of anyone else who comes close. I haven't even asked him yet, but I think he'd do it. I told my parents and they said they wouldn't say anything to him, but thought it was a great idea. My husband is also good with it and think it's a sweet thing to do. but my female friends were horrified I suggested it and think it's creepy. If I look back on that time, it's the happiest a person could be. Is it weird and creepy? Does it contravene some weird relationship boundary between brothers and sisters? Is it highly inappropriate? Relevant comments. Deleted account. This comment has been downvoted. It's your wedding, so you should do what you want, although traditionally the maid of honor is supposed to be your right hand in the wedding planning and the bachelorette party and bridal shower and all that. Is your brother going to do that? OP responds, no, but neither will my bridesmaids, really. My fiancé and I are doing most of the work, and for the bridal shower, I'm pretty sure he would put it together if that's what was required. But then again, I don't think it's absolutely necessary. User 955450331 comments, so you expect the best man to dance with your brother at the wedding? Nothing wrong with it, if they're okay with that. OP responds, we're not having a formal dance at our wedding, but giving people the option. Neither of us can dance well, so we're having other options, particularly a cocktail time. Update, posted July 4th, 2019. I am so thankful for all of your comments. I read every single one of them. So, what happened? Well, I realized that it's my wedding. My fiancé fully understood my position and really likes my brother and thought it was a great idea. I organized a brunch with my current bridesmaids to explain my position and why I did what I did. I realized that it's a story I've told but didn't talk about with my friends. I thought it was abundantly clear that being different from my family made it obvious. The brunch was interesting. What I didn't mention in my last post was that the person who raised the most fuss was also someone who seemed to get the other people going more than they otherwise would have. We met for a lovely brunch at a nice place, my treat too, and I raised the issue once more. The person who was most disgusted by it, Mrs. X, again raised her objection. She was furious and said that this was a travesty and tried to rally the other girls. This time, there wasn't as much of a reaction and the others sort of just didn't care. I told them all why I wanted to honor my brother and why it was so important to me. And Mrs. X admitted that it was lovely and touching, but it should be her because it's her business. Turns out that she wanted to be maid of honor and was going behind my back to get the other girls to drop out of contention so that she could do it. So she could plan the wedding, and thus be the maid of honor / wedding planner, and this would be for her business. I was a bit surprised. Miss X was so upset that she threatened to drop out of the bridal party altogether if this went further. Brunch was tense after she left, but the consensus was the other girls wanted her gone, and I didn't want her around anymore either, so she's no longer being included. I will send her an invite. That meant I had to speak to my brother. As I mentioned, he's a doctor and has a dual practice. So I swung by his office and texted him that I really needed to talk. He misinterpreted my comments, so he kept the office open late, and his secretary / nurse / wife, let me in. I went into his office and he was immediately worried I was sick. But I told him what had happened and why Mrs. X dropped out, and that I wanted him to be my man of honor. He was totally surprised and confused. He asked if I was sure, and that I really shouldn't feel compelled, which is when I began crying. I had so much pent-up emotion. So he made me laugh, which meant I was snorting, crying, which is my usual. He said he would be delighted, but wasn't really good at bridal showers, so he would need help. We arranged a time for all the bridesmaids to come together and meet the man of honor, so we're having a barbecue at my parents' place this weekend. My mom and dad are so happy that he's involved. My dad is walking me down the aisle and my brother will stand at the end. My brother offered a very, very generous gift towards paying for the wedding, so not only is he standing as the maid of honor, but is paying about 1/3 of the wedding. We're really, really excited. Interesting story, one of the bridesmaids actually knows my brother. This bridesmaid and I were friends at college and lived away for a while. While visiting home, she developed some sort of nasty infection and was directed from a walk-in clinic to an emergency room where my brother attended to her and got her on her way. So there's a weird personal connection that they can talk about when they meet. Hey, you lanced something somewhere. Glad to meet you again. All in all, I'm sad one friend turned out to be so selfish, but I'm happy to got my man of honor. Relevant comment, deleted comment. OP responds to it. Half spite, half polite, she probably won't show. Imagine finding out that one of your friends was rallying all of your friends against you because you were trying to choose something important for you, only to find out that their main contention was that because this is their business model and they wanted to use you as a client, so therefore sabotaging what would be important to you. I actually don't have to imagine, but it's still just a very gross situation to be in. Imagine feeling so entitled that you believe that you deserve to be in a position where your friend is coming to you for a business opportunity, for their wedding, and you feel the need to sabotage them honoring their brother who helped pretty much raise them and get them back on their feet after an extremely traumatic childhood. This post was collected by Direct Caterpillar 77, and their tagline is, "Sane is not a pogo stick." The original OP is Gecko14, posted to r/mytheasshole May 3rd, 2019. Am I the asshole for wishing my friend, 24 female, didn't follow my partner, 23 male, and I, 27 female, to live in a tropical island? Because she's making our time here a bit shit. So, I have this friend. Let's call her Amy. We've been friends for a couple of years through uni and work. She's fun and positive, and I consider her a good friend. To cut a long story short, I got offered a job teaching in the Pacific Islands as a teacher. Of course I accepted the job and told my family and friends, including Amy. All my friends joked about coming too, and I always said, yes, please, come too, knowing no one would. However, Amy took it literally. And then, within the next hour, she had sent her CV out to a bunch of schools, including the one I got offered a job at, and then got a job there too. I was upset at first, and probably still am. This was a unique experience that I'd always dreamed of, and I kinda wanted to keep it for myself. Selfish as that sounds, but I worked my ass off and put myself out there for this job. Fast forward to now, and because the school pays for our accommodation, we three are living in a small apartment, and me and Amy are working at the school. After 3 months here, instead of being a nice and fun friend, she now purposefully excludes me from things she knows I would enjoy doing, e.g., she has been playing my favorite sport without telling me, so I wouldn't try to join the team. She makes little digs at me constantly at home. She's super loud around the house and is always rushing around. She's a very intense energy to be around. My partner and I are super calm and quiet people. She's also rude and demanding to the principal at work, which is super embarrassing. Today after work, I was so tired and excited to go straight to bed for a nap, and I walked inside the house, and she had a group of our colleagues around. They were all laughing, eating snacks, and making cocktails. I got upset that, one, I was so tired and I had to deal with people in my private space while feeling like that, and two, I wasn't invited to the party. I went to my room and shut the door, and they all started whispering and laughing and ran upstairs. It breaks my heart that I essentially invited her to come with us, and she's just making me upset or angry so much of the time. Am I selfish for being over the top? Am I the asshole for wanting to tell her she needs to remember she followed us here, so she needs to start treating us with more respect? Too long didn't read, a friend followed my boyfriend and I to a new country for a job and lives with us. Now she's making our time here a bit shit. Verdict, not the asshole. Update, June 17th, 2019. So, it's been 6 weeks since my last post, and a lot has changed. The general consensus from people on here was that everyone sucked in the situation, and the best thing to do would be to find a new place. After the initial annoyance of realizing we would have to find a new place, I contacted my employer to ask if my boyfriend and I could move to a new place since they pay for our accommodation, citing some unelaborated challenges as being reason for moving. However, my boyfriend and I were away for a week when I sent the email, and my employer ended up telling Amy we were wanting to move out before we had the chance. I received a message from Amy and apologized for not telling her, and we spoke to her about it when we were back. My boyfriend and I didn't go into any detail with her about why we were leaving due to the fact that we work together, but also in past observations of her, she doesn't take ownership for her behavior and can't admit when she's wrong. Now my boyfriend and I are living on our own in a really nice modern studio apartment that has sea views and we can hear the ocean from our room. So peaceful. I am also now realizing our relationship was on the brink before we moved out on our own due to my anger and the lack of privacy. Now, I'm the happiest I've been in our relationship. As well as this since my original post, a few weeks ago I contacted a good friend / ex-flatmate of Amy with my concerns about her. This friend then told me she was treated in exactly the same way by Amy and feels mentally more positive knowing it is Amy who is the problem. Also, and the reason I posted this today, my boss came to me this afternoon and brought up a huge raft of concerns she's having about Amy as an employee. My boss says she's always in the office, demanding things. She's pushy, expects a lot from them, isn't doing her job tasks properly, and asks to leave work early because she apparently has no work to do, while the rest of us leave late trying to keep up with all the work. Since having some space and now speaking to other people about Amy, I'm realizing she's not someone I can consider a true friend. However, I will remain polite to her while I have to be around her still. Thanks to everyone who made me realize this wasn't a good situation to be in and suggested we move out. We are so much happier now. Relevant comments, Visky Ban. I'm so happy your relationship was able to get back on track. Bask in that happiness. Why on earth were you friends with her in the first place? Opie responds, I had only hung out with her for short amounts of time, and it was to go do fun things, so I guess I saw her only during the fun times. Lesson learned to get to know people better first before moving into a tropical island, that's for sure. So I went back to the original post to see how many comments were actually everyone sucks here, and most of them were along the lines of, don't make an offer or invite that you don't want people to take you up on. I think it's pretty reasonable that the whole concept of like, oh, I wish you could join when you're moving to a tropical island is just pleasantries. I think that's pretty clear. Let alone the fact of someone actually going and like taking the time to move there too. I don't think OP sucks for just doing common pleasantries that people do. But even if that was the case, that's not even close to being remotely comparable to someone inviting your colleagues that you also work with to your home without informing you and not inviting you. On top of just a bunch of the other shit she was doing too, which apparently is just common practice for her. I also wonder if OP would have had the same reaction if Amy was actually being a good friend while she decided to move out there with them. So, you've made it to the outro. Have you considered using code ODDS at checkout with GamerSupps? It provides 10% off the $40 tubs that they offer. Those tubs, by the way, have 100 servings per container. That's right, 100 servings. Your average can of energy drink is 16 ounces. One GamerSupps serving is 8 ounces. That means that you'll get 50 classic energy drink styles with one tub for $40. On Amazon right now, you can actually order yourself your selected energy drink of choice for maybe around $40 for 12 of them. So in my eyes, the math is mathin'. Plus, it's sugar-free, so hey. Not to mention you can pair that flavor with a caffeine-free version so you can just have something nice and flavorful to sip on. This has been your friendly PSA from us, Osmodius Medium. I actually realized after yesterday when I mentioned the main channel that not a lot of people realize that the main channel is Oz Media, that the full kind of like media aspect of Oz's Vault has been like kind of lost to time. So would that mean that it's Osmodius Voltus for the name now? Just out of curiosity. I'm thinking too hard about the YouTube OC. Anyways, I'll catch y'all later.